And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on air automotive magazine. I'm Fred Staab. He is Les Jackson, and we've been joined by Sean Gorman, who is Land Rover's off road test and engineering consultant. And Les and I had a chance to watch a great doc this week. Matter of fact, we have a link up on our Cruise Control Facebook page. It's called All You Need to Know Overlanding. And this is a topic that's been getting a lot of coverage lately, and it's pretty exciting to me because, well, I did a lot. I did RVing, which is not overlanding, but I also did camping outdoors when I was in the Boy Scouts. So I understand being out under the stars at night. And as I mentioned, this great documentary that we had a chance to see. And now we have someone that had a chance to be part of it, and that is Sean Gorman. Welcome to Cruise Control, Sean. How are you?
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Yeah, the documentary was a lot of fun. What car guy or truck guy wouldn't want to take some Land Rover Defenders, brand new Land Rover Defenders, and go off on an incredible road trip and make a great documentary about it?
Yeah, it was a great time. We had a great time making it, and it's a perfect car for it. But also, it's just a great opportunity. It's not something very often that you get, a major network who really is interested in it. And Christian Murphy, the guy who was the main host there, he's actually an A&E executive, so it was pretty cool thing to do, to take an executive from uh, one of the networks out and really be able to show him kind of what I do and what Scott does, and put that together into I think it turned out to be a really nice piece, actually.
It's beautifully filmed. It makes you want to go on this trip. You're seeing what's there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think what's really amazing about it is that overlanding is this big segment of the off-road industry that has really kind of boomed in the last 10 years, but it's not really a new thing either. I mean, historically, especially here in the US, I mean, we talk a lot about overlanding in Australia and things like that, but the reality is that the US has a huge history going back to the late teens and 20s of tour and using automobile tourism, and that's part of what really built our national park system. And I think for me personally, the fun part of what I do is, I get to work with cars and car companies, car manufacturers, to help them build cars that do things better. But it also allows just an average normal driver a lot more capability and access to the backcountry, which to me is a very important part, and something that we kind of take for granted here in the States because we have so much federal land that we have access to.
You know, what's interesting is the documentary talks a little bit about the beginnings of it all. Um, and Christian Murphy, who is the one of the folks, as you mentioned, the executive that's on the show, he talked about it starting in Australia. And I had a laugh because it was kind of like herding cattle with Land Rovers, which is an interesting concept, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, right, overlanding, I mean, really, as it relates to us in this country in particular, I mean, I guess really could go back to the pioneers crossing the plains and heading to the west. I mean, it's the idea of, being able to be self-sufficient in the backcountry and try to be as comfortable as possible. And I think that's kind of where it's morphed to where we're at today with it, which is it's the scope has gotten very wide. When I first got into it, kind of was more of a tool to get out into the backcountry, and now you look in and you go to things like Overland Expo, and these it's become quite a cult following. But you have huge vans all the way to unimogs and what I call land yachts. They're basically off-road RVs at that point. So there's quite a big gamut, and I think it's kind of neat because you have the ability to get people who would typically be a slightly averse to going out into the backcountry because they'd be uncomfortable or things like that. But it gives them access to that, so you can get out there and kind of see our country and see the world a bit, and at the same time be able to get off the pavement.
Yeah,
Which is
that's the thing. I mean, you really and it's hard to do today to get away from everyone, but this is what I think the appeal of overlanding is. And I think that's why the documentary was so good. I mean, it really is a how-to of how to overland, what you have to do. I mean, if people want to get involved with this, let's take us through. What did you guys do? You really kind of you started off with Land Rover Defenders, a great thing to start with as a piece of kit.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the average person, the reality is if you have a semi-capable off-roader, and honestly, it doesn't really even need to be an off-roader. To be fair, there's a lot of people that have a Subaru Forester, or
They're pretty
Subaru with a
capable.
rooftop.
They're actually pretty
Sure,
capable. Yeah.
they absolutely are, and especially here in the western part of the U.S. I live here in Colorado, and you get in Colorado, Utah, up into Wyoming, and things like that. There's so much forest road and what I would call semi-improved roads um, that a car is completely capable to do. And I think that if you start with what you have, and then as you start to get more invested and involved in it, it's worth it might be worth investing, but it's a progress. I don't think you need to go out and buy a brand new car. You don't need to go out and buy you don't need to go buy a brand new Defender and totally deck it out with everything. I mean, the reality is that the more capable the car and the more capable you become driving the car, the more access you have. And so what you'll typically find is you'll get to a point and you're like, I wish I could go there, but I don't have the stuff to do it. And then you can start to put the kit together to be able to get there.
Can you tow a trailer like we just saw in the video? Can you tow something over the majority of those roads?
Well, that's kind of an interesting one. So you can. I mean, the challenges off-road with a trailer are exponentially different. So like a lot of the stuff that you saw on the show that we did, it would be really hard to do with a trailer. Now, the thing to remember, and the thing that's great about a trailer is that, so it's like most things in life, there's pros and cons. So the good thing about a trailer is that if you're into the type of thing where you go somewhere, you park, you can set up your camp, you can set up your trailer, and you can leave it and then go kind of do day trips or get access to other places. But me personally, if I were going on a really long trip, self-supported, I'd probably try to avoid a trailer, just because at some point it's going to become a problem. But like I said, I see a lot of people with them out there, and I feel for them trying to pull that thing around.
We are speaking with Sean Gorman, who is Land Rover's off-road test and engineering consultant. And the name of the show, which you can see, we actually have a link up on our Facebook page, or Cruise Control Facebook page. It's called All You Need to Know Overlanding. It aired on FYI and the History Channel. We have a link on our Facebook page. It's going to air again, by the way. I understand in expanded form. So maybe we'll hear more about those great lamb shanks that were cooked later on in the show. Maybe we'll get a full cooking lesson from Christian there. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, the lamb shanks were pretty awesome.
Well, let's talk about you prep for this event, you prep for this road trip. I thought of my co-host Les, because they said the line said something like, you got to bring a lot of stuff, important things, and I saw a bag of Lay's potato chips. So he likes Lay's. It's like only the important things, yes. And then you set off on the road. You went to Sedona, I believe, was one of the first stops. I love that because that's where I went on my honeymoon, and beautiful red rocks, tons of hiking, tons of trails. They have a lot of vendors that do rides, off-road rides in there. What was that like? And I think probably one of the things we should point out, and one of the best points you made along the way, is it doesn't always go to plan, and that's kind of the good thing. It doesn't always say, like, okay, Tuesday we'll be here at 7 a.m. and then we'll do this. Sometimes, like, you get out into the middle of nowhere and there's a locked gate.
Yeah, that stuff does happen, and I think that is part of the fun part of overlanding. Really, is it's that feeling of being self-sufficient. So if you get someplace and something happens, and I mean, the reality is that's part of the responsibility that we take when we do travel into the backcountry. Particularly if you travel alone, is that you better really know what you're doing, and you better really have the right stuff to be able to handle it, because there may or may not be somebody who can come and tow you out.
All right. Well, hold it right there, Sean. We'll be right back with more about this great documentary that you can see on the FYI channel. It's called All You Need to Know About Overlanding. I'm Fred Staab. He's Les Jackson. More cruise control coming up after this. And welcome back to Cruise Control. I'm Fred Staab. He is Les Jackson, and we're joined by Sean Gorman, Land Rover's off-road test and engineering consultant. We are talking about this great documentary that you can check out on the FYI channel. All You Need to Know About Overlanding. It's a documentary. It's been on the History Channel as well. We have a link up on our page, Facebook page, so go check it out. And really great footage, amazing footage, and a road trip show where you go way off road. We were talking, Sean, you were in Sedona, Arizona.
Yep.
And then you head on over to one of the most amazing areas of the U.S., the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon. It's one of those just kind of epic spots, and particularly on the North Rim, which is an area that doesn't get explored near as much as the South Rim, where the visitor centers are and such. And the North Rim is a cool area in the fact that you can actually camp right up on the rim, and it's much more isolated and remote compared to the South.
Yeah. You ever think of what I wanted to look this up before we did this segment, but what was it like when someone came over the ridge and they got into a little clearing and saw this for the first time? You know, whoever discovered it. I mean, what do you think they said?
They probably were trying to get to the other side somehow.
Like, oh no.
But now what do we do?
This is going to take a little longer than we thought, right?
Yeah. Well, you got to stay basically right on the rim, right? I mean,
Yeah, we did. We camped right up on the rim. Kind of interesting, just trying to get film permits and to do that. Not so much to camp there, but to be able to film it's kind of interesting. There was a very hard line that we were not allowed to cross. So
okay.
A lot of that imagery is all from one direction, which is kind of funny little behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. Can the average person that's not doing a documentary, can they get that close out there at Overland?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a Bureau of Land Management and National Forest land. So basically, every U.S. citizen owns that land and has access to it. We can go out there and enjoy that. There are certain times of the year, particularly in the winter, that area is closed because of snow, and you can't get into it then. But yeah, if it's open, you can cruise down there, and anybody can camp in that area.
And of course,
Did you
tread lightly?
Did you run into any interesting critters on the trip?
We didn't really. No, not particularly. I mean, we didn't really see any snakes. We did see a few scorpions at night. They were kind of, they keep to themselves, and no, nothing really crazy or wild.
Yeah.
No bears or anything.
Yeah. Well, who were your three folks that you mentioned? Christian Murphy, who is an executive at A&E, and the other fellow along there with the ride was.
Yeah, that's Scott Brady, and Scott. He started and founded a magazine. Oh, I don't know. It's probably 12 or 15 years ago now, called Overland Journal, which is kind of the international publication of overlanders and people who travel the world via vehicle. Yeah, it's a great magazine. Honestly, if you've never seen it, you should check it out. It's like a travel log, and it's only published 4 or 5 times a year, but it's fantastic. It's real legitimate stuff. So.
And one of the things you did, you went for a ride in the sand, and I learned from this that the good rule of thumb when airing down your tires, if you have 16-inch wheels, take it down to 16 pounds. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's something that I teach. I spent quite a lot of time in the Middle East doing engineering and testing with cars, and I think it's just a really good rule of thumb is that's a good place to start. I mean, our thing we always worry about in the sand is you're a little bit faster, you have a little bit more momentum, and it's not that difficult to pull a tire or have one come off the bead of the rim.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you start with that idea of whatever your wheel size is, it's a pretty safe estimate that you're going to be fine, that you're not going to roll that off.
Hence the reason why a lot of people use bead locks. So
Correct.
So
Yeah.
basically the wheel is clamped on there, screwed into it, and it's not gonna come off. Sort of like a drag car. That's what they do with them. They actually put sheet metal screws through the beads so they don't come off. I tell you, the documentary is great because you get the feel for the road trip, you get the feel for the fun, you get the feel for Christian learning more about off-roading. I don't know what his background was with off-roading, but he got a lot of great tips. Rock climbing, I've always been, rock crawling, I should say. I've always been amazed at that, the capability. And we were saying during the break that you and I probably have driven together. And I remember going on a trail like it's through the woods. And I was like, I would never bring my new Land Rover or any new thing through the woods because I was like, there's a real good chance you're going to readjust the sheet metal in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's for sure. The funny thing about doing all that driving is that, you start to see kind of what the cars are actually capable of. And I think that's kind of part of the fun, right? Is like, it's overlanding it's really about adventure travel and being able to use a car as the tool to provide that. And I think that for those of us that like cars, like you two and I do, this is a really nice compromise and a good blend of a lot of things that we probably enjoy.
Talk about the Defender a little bit. I mean, of course, the Defender was I would call it the blood and guts Land Rover before old school, like a seat and a shift and a steering wheel and metal everywhere. But this new one is quite different.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got a couple old ones. And it's just a really iconic car, right? I mean, typically, if you think of going to Africa or crossing the Kalahari or something, you think about the shape of an old Defender, and that car was in production quite a long time. And if you really think of Land Rover, that the car kind of dates back really to square one with the business and the brand. And so this car is a huge technological step forward as to what the car does from a technology standpoint. And I think you could make the argument that it's probably a more capable car. I can tell you it's a lot more capable when it comes to being on the road. It's a lot more comfortable, and you saw it pulling those trailers and things like that. And the old cars, they're a much more tractor-like.
That's what yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good description of it. It's a lot more tractor-like. And the reality is that for the way that most of us use a car from day to day, is that the new Defender is just the perfect ticket for it. I mean, it really is designed for overlanding and that kind of use. It's designed more for that than it is to be a big rock crawler. It's really not designed to have 37-inch tires and huge flexi suspension and stuff. It's a much more medium to heavy duty type build, designed to carry weight distances versus being long and flexy and just going out to Moab and kind of
how with two people in it, how much can you store in it, and how long can you stay out in it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly what the gross vehicle weight is on the car, but to give you some conceptually is that you can put I'm a pretty big guy. I'm about 250 pounds. You can put 4 of me in there and have plenty of gear on it and still be under gross vehicle weight, which is actually quite rare these days in the automotive world, unless you start getting into trucks.
Yeah, I like the tent, the rooftop tent. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the rooftop tents are a funny thing because here in Colorado, where I live, you're starting to see rooftop tents on everything. I saw one yesterday on a minivan.
It's a house.
So yeah. And what's cool about, again, there's pros and cons to everything. So the beauty of the rooftop tent is it opens up an area, and a lot of people who would be uncomfortable to normally camp feel real comfortable in a rooftop tent. They're not on the ground and those kinds of things. And me personally, I have a rooftop tent on my car, and I still probably mostly sleep on the ground. I
Just
find
the
it,
way you like it. Yeah.
yeah, it's just quicker. Yeah.
The name of the doc is called All You Need to Know About Overlanding. It's on FYI and the History Channel. Sean, we appreciate you coming on the radio show. Really good information. And check out that doc. You can check out a link on our Facebook page. So, time for me to say, I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We're going to see you down the road. Take care.
Bye.